Excellent. So I think we are recording now. Welcome to the Umoja and Puente and Umoja program here. Programming in terms of talking about these wonderful programs to our campus community and encouraging all of us as a campus to get involved and support these programs because they're very, very good programs designed to help students, Latine, and also help African American and Black students succeed here in college. And we know from the data that they work. So it's just a matter of supporting them and getting students in so they can be successful. Today here we have with us Darnita Boynton Howard, who is the manager of the Moja program. And we have Hector Guzman, who's the manager of the Puente program. And they're going to tell us a little bit about their programs. I know that Darnita and Hector brought some faculty and brought some other folks in their program with us here too. But I would like to, this is their program, so I'd like to give them the opportunity to introduce those folks. So I don't know if you wanted to rock, paper, scissors. Hector, Darnita, I don't know who wants to go first, but it's your show. Please, if you could just go ahead on and maybe let me look at my questions here to make sure that I'm just tell us a little bit about maybe your programs, the overall overarching purposes of these programs, and just kind of like you were telling us before, how many people were involved, just all the innards of the program, so we can get a better understanding of them. But whoever, please go ahead on.
I'll go first. Again, I'm Darnita Boynton Howard, the program lead for the Moja Scholars Program. And I don't want to say it's my program because it is our program, because the whole focus is community and experiencing community at Bellevue College and outside of Bellevue College. And this is a learning community specifically targeted to Black, African American, and African students. It is definitely opening up to other populations that are interested in the African diaspora as well, to enrich their learning experience. And so we're here with our second cohort of students at Bellevue College. Our program is working to get affiliated with the Umoja Community Education Foundation, which is based in California, which houses most of the Umoja programs. And it was geared to promote the student success for Black students that attend community colleges and to get them to attain their educational goals, whether that's to attain a certificate, an associate's degree, or help them transfer to a four-year institution. And with the model, it's an integration of the instruction to have the classes as well as student support services. And so with our current structure, we have in the fall, we have 3 Umoja supported classes, which are English 101. We have Cultural and Ethnic Studies course that Delissa teaches, is the Intro to African American Studies. And we also have first year seminar, which Brian Brown teaches. And then the next quarter, we'll follow with English 201, some other sociology and math courses as well with the math department to help those students succeed. Like I did mention before we started officially, I have 27 students on roster who are registered for classes here. However, we do not have 27 students taking all 3 courses. Some students are taking at least 1 course. Some students are in their program taking calculus and chemistry. However, they want the support that Umoja has to offer while they're here at Bellevue College. And so we're here kind of have sub cohorts within the larger group that is Umoja for this 22-23 school year. And the overall support is a demonstration of Sankofa. The goal is to have students be connected to their past, tap into the African and African American legends, legacy, the educational resources, the books, the knowledge, the art, the people in their community that has the wisdom to connect them to their identities, and also allow them to be encouraged and empowered in the classroom to speak and not be ashamed of who they are, whether how they talk, from how they learn, their learning styles, is to bring all of that to the table to help them prepare and move forward their future of educational success. So that is the Moja Scholars Program.
All right, and for the Puente program, so as you know, both of our programs are new. Puente has been here at Bellevue College as of last year, but it's been existing for 41 years. The thing is, it's been a California program as its majority. There is one other extension in Texas, and now whenever we get communications, they include Washington as well, as we're starting that journey up here. And the big overarching purpose for Puente is that it was created to close the degree completion gap. And also, when it was created, we were looking that a lot of our Latinx students were not completing their degrees, and also they were not persisting in their attendance. So the reason why it was created kind of like followed those trends that we were seeing in the community college. And we looked into what do we need in order to be able to make sure that students are successful. So we combine counseling and dedicated English faculty staff in order to create the program. That's when it was created. The program Puente is starting to reimagine itself. It's starting to expand. As of this year, we're starting a STEM component to it that some schools are piloting at this point. So hopefully we can get that into our program in the future, once I know more than what I'm doing is right. Maybe after 1 year here. But one of the big things about Puente is that, one, we offer dedicated counseling. So Ana Bravo, who couldn't join us today, she's our dedicated Puente counselor. We also have dedicated English faculty, which is part of from when Puente started. We have Fernando Perez and also Jose Aparicio. I'm helping a lot with academic advising, which is really easy when you have a specific set of classes that you take quarter over quarter for your first year. And of course, we're working together with our pathway advisors to make sure that the students are taking the right set of classes. But one big component of Puente is that we offer culturally relevant coursework. So rather than taking the regular English 101 classes, 201 classes, where they're going to be learning basically from other white authors, we're trying to incorporate Latinx and immigrant experienced voices into that curriculum, so the students are able to see themselves, be able to relate to the content, or be able to, for some of them who are first generation Americans, be able to experience a little bit of what their families might have experienced as they were immigrating into the United States. As I mentioned earlier, we do have 26 students in our cohort, so we have a full cohort. And as part of the Puente requirement, now my job is to make sure that now that I brought them in, that they stay here and complete their degrees. And even though Puente is very dedicated into helping students basically transfer to a four-year institution or continue here if they want to attain their bachelor's degrees to Bellevue College, we do not deter anyone regardless if they don't identify as Latinx or Hispanic, or if they're just looking for a technical degree. That doesn't matter to us. All that matters to us is making sure that the students feel supported and that they are receiving the appropriate care, which is one of our pillars. Cariño is how we say it in Spanish. And making sure that we connect them to the resources that they need. Sometimes students don't know either what to ask, who to ask, or where to go, but we do. That's what we do here on campus as staff. So if I cannot answer those questions, my job is to make sure that I connect them to the right people. As I mentioned, we do provide a sense of community by keeping the cohort together. That's why it's such a big component to make sure that the students haven't taken the classes so that they can go quarter over quarter, not only for them to be able to see each other during that sequence, but also so that they learn to ask for help from each other, be able to help each other, since they're basically sailing in the same boat. And one of the future services that we'll be providing as well, which it should be part of Puente, but the pandemic was happening last year, will be college visitations. We want students to be able to transfer or attain their bachelor's. So we have secured the funding for those 3 trips are the goals here in the state of Washington. And those will be based off of the majority's preferences. Every single Puentista will be asked, hey, what are your top 5 choices or top 3 choices? And the most prevalent ones will be the schools that I'll be setting up for us to visit.
I see there's, okay, you got it.
Yeah, I see the question. Could you tell us a bit more about the cohort model? How many classes do they all take together every quarter and how long? Great question. So the cohort model is only for the first year. Puente has 3 different phases. Well, they have 2, but California is mostly semester system, so I had to slightly modify it to make it work for Washington. Phase 1 is their first year. It is their cohort year. During the fall quarter, they're taking 2 Puente classes, English 101 and first year seminar. During the winter quarter, they're taking English 201, which completes the writing requirements, and also career development. That's part of Puente, but also fulfills one elective. And for spring quarter, they're taking CES 170, which is Intro to Latinx Studies. Right now, we're in communications of potentially switching, depending on how the schedule is going to work, that I forget the CES, and also Human Development 170, which is career development. So don't quote me on where those will fall quite yet, but those are the 5 those are the 5 courses that the students are taking while they are in their cohort. And the reason we don't add a third one specifically is that so they can take either the math component, which is preferable, and also for them to start taking pathway courses if they're in a pathway, or certificate courses. The reason for that is that first quarter is fairly easy, taking FYS and English 101. We want to slowly increase the difficulty of those courses so they can start getting used to what to expect. How are they going to organize themselves? How are they going to manage their time? How are they managing their homework? As they take more pathway courses, difficulty increases, and we want to make sure that that's exponentially growing rather than things are super difficult from the beginning and staying that way all through. And I think there was another component to the question.
Yeah, I see Felicia's question. And the answer is yes, because a 4-year degree is a 4-year degree. And since we offer 4-year institutions, we might as well keep our students here at Bellevue College as long as possible, especially if their program is available at Bellevue College.
Yes. And we told the students that as well, like, hey, like, we're not like a lot of community colleges, we also offer bachelor's, so we'll help them stay here and get into those bachelor degrees, just like we would help them get into any other 4-year institution. And regarding the section of the cohort model, even though the cohort's only 1 year, our services continue to help them even though they're not in the cohort. We do provide slightly some additional ones, which would include helping them with the admissions process into other institutions, working through letters of recommendations, proofreading their essays, and making sure they submit financial aid to make sure that they're successful. Hopefully, part of those communications as we get more connected with other institutions will be handing them off to other programs that might be able to help them. Now that they might not have Puente at their next school, hopefully they can connect with student support services, education opportunity programs, TRIO, any of those programs that can help them as underrepresented students and or first generation.
So I see that there are faculty, or there is a faculty who teaches in the program here, Dr. Edinburgh. And I don't know, Darnita, I don't know if she could say something too here about, if you don't mind, or.
Delissa can talk. This is her first quarter with us as part of the Umoja Village. So take it away, Delissa. Talk about your experience so far.
Yeah, as Darnita mentioned, it is my first quarter. It's also my first quarter in person at Bellevue College. So there's a lot of adjustments happening. I'll just preface on what happens in my course. I teach Introduction to African American Studies here at Bellevue College. It's a small but good group from what I've seen last week. A lot of input from the classroom, which is always very important. And how I've structured a class is that we explore the 1619 Project, the book by Nicole Hannah Jones. And we not only explore essays within that book, but we look at other articles and videos and documentaries and poems that link to some of the themes embedded within the book: enslavement, Reconstruction, civil rights, Black creativity and arts. And I think the main purpose of this all for me is that students get an understanding of the past as well as the present. In the class that we had last week, just asking students, how much have you learned about African American studies, or what have you learned about enslavement or slavery or previous periods. And I feel this is an opportunity for students to fill in some of the gaps from what I heard that had occurred in the earlier educational experiences. So that's just where I'm at the moment. I'm very excited about the class. One thing with my classes is not just to have readings, but to have documentaries and videos and a range of other tools and materials and learning activities just to keep students engaged and center their experiences, because their voices are very much important in the class. Yes, we're learning about these readings, and yes, we're engaging with this documentary, but what does it mean to you and your experiences, and how can we see that in a wider context as well? So I look forward to the rest of the quarter. I always get excited about the Introduction to African American Studies because it's my academic interest, my research interest, and I learn a lot from students the last time I taught it, and I expect to learn a lot from students this quarter too.
I think Tanya had a question here in the chat. It says, is your class 100% Umoja students, or is it a mix?
It's a mix from what I have gathered from students. I don't know if Darnita, you can speak more to that.
I actually don't have access to the roster to know.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to presume it is a mix for the CS 140 class.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. I have some formal questions here, but of course, feel free to speak to whatever you want to about your programs. And of course, all of you who are with us here today, feel free to ask whatever you like. The first question I had here is, what are the educational benefits? And I know you've already spoken to some of this too, but what are the educational benefits of your program for the students who participate or who would like to participate too?
I definitely feel with the Umoja is providing that culturally relevant curriculum. And it's okay to take it in various subjects, regardless if it's Intro to African American Studies, the English 101 class. We can also take it into the mathematics class, from more into the science room. There's always an opportunity to explore culture and identities in those spaces. It allows the students to be the highest priority in the classroom. Also, another benefit is that Umoja is holistic. We're not just about educating the mind and just making sure you know the book knowledge, but that you're supported in your body, mind, and spirit. Are we tapping into your mental wellness to make sure that you're successful in the classroom and outside? Do you know your history? Are you okay with being yourself? If you're not participating in the classroom discussions, there's some room to find out why. And what can we do to bring you into the space? Have you been judged before? Or has someone said that what you do or what you know or how you speak or how you write is insufficient? Those are the types of things we want to navigate and explore so that the students feel confident to be in the classroom and learn and teach as well. It's about gifting as well in Umoja, because our students have voices, they have knowledge as well. So we try to eliminate some of the hierarchy in the classroom as well. And we're there to provide academic support as well. So not just in the classroom, we want students to go to tutoring. We want students to occupy the study spaces. Is one of the Umoja practices is occupy study spaces to make your presence known and to learn from one another and be accountable to each other's learning. As an educational benefit. And again, we talked about academic advising to help students during their time here. And if they are interested in matriculating elsewhere, help them on that journey as well. And we provide workshops and cultural activities outside of that will benefit the students, such as goal setting, definitely learning about students who may want to be at an historically Black college or university will also have an opportunity to learn about that landscape as well. So it's about completion, retention, success, empowerment, leadership, all of those things benefit our Umoja scholars.
For Puente, as I mentioned, and Darnita mentioned, we offer the culturally relevant coursework. So our students are able to, in a way, see themselves in the content. But also part of both of our programs is our students are also seeing themselves in their faculty members. because the faculty members that the majority who are working for us are also identifying as Latinx. So that's one big component. I didn't think about this when I was a student myself, but thinking back, I'm like, I don't remember any Latinx faculty members that taught any of my classes, or hearing about my Latinx experience. And I grew up in Mexico. So, so it's something that we offer to our students. Also, all of the classes that students are taking for Puente are completing degree requirements, but also transfer requirements for the students to be able to take that next step. When we were looking at that curriculum, we were trying to make sure that they're not taking anything that would set them back for that graduation time. I do try to emphasize to students as well, like a lot of students are aiming for 2 years, but if you're planning 3 years, like, hey, that is completely fine. Like, even for like a bachelor students finishing 5-6 years. So that's something that we're definitely helping with. I thought about a few other things and I should have jotted them down as I was thinking about them. But yeah, so everything is transferable. We're completing transfer requirements, culturally relevant coursework, representation in the classroom. I feel terrible that I eluded my mind. But let's see if it comes back to me. It was related to something that you said, Darnita. Oh, yes. One of the aspects that we learn about during Puente training is that we're also providing language justice, which in a lot of classrooms, students are not really allowed to either write in their own voice. It has to be like very technical, following the rules. But in the case for Puente, a lot of our students grew up speaking Spanish. They speak both languages. Some of them might speak Spanglish. And for some of our classes, some of the conversations that we have are like, come as you are. Like, if you switch from like one language to another one in our classrooms, they're a safe space for our students to be able to have those conversations, switching back and forth. So that's something that we are currently implementing.
Yes, that goes along with another Umoja practice, is language as power. So we don't want to, what you grew up with is what you grew up with. If you can't fully express what you want to say in English, say it in your native tongue. That's what we do here. And that's what we encourage.
I guess I'm a little biased, but I so love the linguistic aspect, bringing in various languages and even talking about this new blending of languages with Spanish and English, and because language is alive, and I like that you all are centering on that. I have another question here that I have for you. If you were to give 3 important tips to faculty, and I know there's a ton that you all can give to us because, there's a lot of stuff that can help us out here. But if you were to give 3 important tips to faculty about working with Puente and Umoja students and trying to help them succeed, what would those tips be?
I struggle a little bit because I was thinking, what can I tell a faculty member that they don't already know? But one of the things is show the students that you care about their success, which I'm pretty sure that you already do. If you see a student that's declining in their performance or attendance, I know that we submit an early alert to our students, but I think that rather than hearing it directly from someone that they've never met before, if they like get approached by you at first, like, hey, like, can I speak to you right after class? They'll notice that you're noticing. To them, they'll go from potentially like, I'm just one other student, I'm just potentially a number, to I'm an individual in the classroom. So maybe having that little shoulder tap might mean a lot to the students, and they might be able to open up more about what's really going on, of why they're falling behind or why they're not showing up as often, rather than it being us assuming that it's something related to their desire to complete the class or their motivation in the class. The second thing that I had is if after having those conversations, you notice that the student might need either to find more community to be able to feel at home here at Bellevue College, or they are in need of services that you don't quite know how to navigate, send them to us. And I don't mean specifically to Puente or Umoja, like send them to multicultural services, and any one of us are happy to help the students regardless of their identities. We know the exact same information. Students might feel more comfortable with one of us or one or the other one, depending on what they need, what the problems are, their identities. So any one of us here in the office are happy to help. And the last thing that I had was try to incorporate a little bit more culturally relevant coursework. And what I mean like that, I know it's, when I was thinking about it, like if we're thinking mathematics, it might be a little bit hard to incorporate, but I did have one example. But in English, for example, you don't necessarily have to include Latinx authors if you don't know them as well, but you might have some readings that relate to different cultural experiences or immigrant experiences. For example, Lupita Mañana by Patricia Beatty. I remember reading that and learning about the immigrant experience. It was not written by an immigrant or Latinx author, but it opened up my view about what some of the people that I've met with in the past have experienced, because I grew up in a border town. So I grew up close to a lot of immigrants, but I've never really gotten to know their stories. Or even Dear America, Notes of an Undocumented Citizen by Jose Antonio Vargas. That also told me a lot about firsthand immigrant experience rather than an outsider story. And this one is actually not Latino, he's Filipino, actually, but the immigrant experience still prevails in the theme of what people experience as they come to America. Anything like that, like as long as students can either expand their worldview or see themselves, I think that's going to really help them stay focused on what you're trying to teach them. Because at the end of the day, they're still gaining the same skills that we're teaching with our current curriculum. And that's what I tell students. They're like, oh, is my English 101 class still going to count even though it's Puente? I'm like, yeah, you're learning the same skills, it's just the content that's different.
Thanks, Hector. I think those are great tips. So trying to come up with only 3 tips. Yes, there's a long list. As mentioned before, educate with a holistic point of view, because learning is more than what they know from a book or a test. Definitely tap into their body and their spirit. Also build community, create an environment that encourages students to be accountable to each other and encourage students to share their gifts, talents, and wisdom. One of the Umoja practices is manifesting, and basically is taking what you learn in the classroom and bring it back to your community in some way. I know one college in California, they take their English class, and those students have taken what they learned and created a podcast for their campus. So that is a way of transforming the information that's in the class and expanding its reach into the community. Also, reimagine what academic success looks like to you. Be anti-racist. Become a ratchetdemic educator. Dr. Christopher Emden has a book called Ratchetdemic: Reimagine Academic Success. And it's basically about bringing out the genius of your students. The genius is already within every student in that classroom. It's up to you to break down those structures that impede that, and to bring that live learning into the classroom. So sometimes you may have to go off script. You may have your lesson plan and your syllabi, but if you see that spark of curiosity, that spark of inquiry, go ahead, follow that path to lead for further critical analysis and examination, and document that way. Assess that as academic success and learning as well, not just what you do on a quiz or a research paper and so forth. And those are my 3 tips so far. And I can put the title in there for you.
Thank you. I was going to email you after.
And I don't know if you all do have some spare time. I know it's the second week of the quarter. If you all could send me, maybe some titles of books that you'd recommend, so we can try to disseminate those too. It'd be really appreciated. Delisa, I don't know if you wanted to contribute to that. I know that you're on the ground teaching literally face to face and are enacting these practices that we're talking about here. If you could add something to this, if you don't mind.
I mean, the list was very exhaustive and, insightful and relevant as well. I think the only thing I would have to add is just, I come into the classroom space, especially coming in person, knowing that there's been a lot of adjustments and changes over the last year. So in my teaching practice and with myself, especially coming in person, centering patients and flexibility, which was a theme in what was discussed before. Students, we've all been through different things in the last year. Students, they're now, if they haven't done in person for a while, engaging fully in a classroom setting with peers and with me and with the materials all in that space. So just coming in with some patience that it's going to take some time before we get into a full flow, and that's fine because of where we've been in the past.
And I wanted to acknowledge there was a question in the chat here from Katie. She mentioned here, let's see here. Is there a way for students to test the waters for the program? So like without jumping in and becoming a full member of both programs, is there a way to just kind of, jump in, get a little taste of what it's like and then make a decision?
When we host some events on campus, look out for the advertisements and students can do that. For students coming in, they have to take first year seminar. So I would say at least take the first year seminar course that was going to fulfill those requirements and get a little hint of what the Umoja program is like, especially since there is like a mentoring structure to the first year seminar. You get the mentoring component of Umoja plus the first year seminar requirement to do that.
With Puente, unfortunately, we don't have a method necessarily for students to test it. But the students, because I only have the space for the 26 students, I need to make sure that I give priority to those students getting to that to continue that cohort model. But I've had students approach me saying like, hey, like I cannot fit these classes into my schedule. They might be like second year students, like how can I still participate? And I told them, like I will add you into our list. And along with our peer educators who are helping with putting together events, reaching out to them, they're included in our reach out list so that they can join us to the different events. I told them when we go to college visitations, I have 26 students, but I plan to schedule a 50-seat bus. So I'll invite you if you want to join us to join to those activities as well, because we want to make sure that they also feel cared for and seen on campus. But unfortunately, besides that and some community events that are not specific to the cohort, I don't have a specific mode for the students to test the waters. I also do want to acknowledge Corby had their hand up.
Sorry, Corby, I didn't see your hand. I apologize.
No worries. It might be a little off base, but I was sitting here thinking as a faculty member on campus, another way that I can help support both programs is sort of, spreading the word in the spaces that I'm at off campus. For example, this weekend on the University of Washington, they had a program called Young Executives of Color, and it's primarily for African American and African students who are sophomores, juniors, or seniors in high school. They also do Shades of Purple. They have Young Gifted in Black, which is a one-day event. And these are all spaces that if I had pamphlets in my hand, I could share information about the programs because they are coming from a high touch, high supported program like Young Executives of Color, and they're looking at colleges. They're wanting to make those decisions early. And this event had a college resource fair that included Renton Tech was there. There were a couple of colleges, and I thought I went around looking for a table, and we didn't have one there. So I'm working on an email to you, Hector, and Darnita to introduce you to the program manager there. I mean, you have full cohorts, so you probably don't need the extra help in that area this year, but maybe for next year, you'll be able to link up with her to fill that space, that void that was there, and represent Bellevue College.
Please do.
Yes, absolutely.
Bring in that connection. I know most of the time we work with the Welcome Center to go to the different college fairs and senior nights and things like that. But if you do have an in to someone in the actual community, do that. Just like in the spring, Ron connected me to the city of Kirkland for their Juneteenth event, and Umoja was represented there. So community support. We do have pamphlets, so I can get those to you as well, Corby. Also, another way for faculty, if you're not interested in teaching, becoming Umojified and partaking in the professional development and training offered by Umoja and having a course, please consider becoming a mentor with the MCS Connects mentoring program. We are looking for faculty and staff to serve in a mentoring capacity to our students that are part of Umoja Puente and utilize MCS services. And we do have an application that is on the MCS website. And you can also come by our C206 to where we're located as well to scan the QR code to learn more.
Yeah. Also, if you ever go into an event and it's kind of like last minute and you think, oh, you know what, these programs will be very, very beneficial for the students, or like, oh, this will be a great time to let the students know their services that cater to them. We always have flyers. And if we don't, we can get more printed.
I think Chris, oh, sorry.
I see Christina's question. Can we share about Umoja Puente to our current students? Yes. Definitely share. Even if they're not able to participate in the cohort, like I'm pretty flexible right now because Umoja is still developing here. So I'm not, steadfast 100% tied to just the classes, but the overall welcoming community at Bellevue College to support students. So if students are interested in some of the programming or even signing up for, like I said, MCS Connects to get a mentor through that, share the information.
That was also a question that I had, because I have African and African American students and Latinx students in my classes. And, they're in an English 101 class because they just independently registered for it. But it would be nice if they could still, participate in the program to some capacity and possibly do an English 201 with the program. So, that would be great. That'd be great. Thank you for opening the doors.
English 201 will be offered in winter quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I have one final question here for you. I mean, of course, you all can Q&A as long as you want to, but it says here, okay, well, I guess we already answered this question really, but how do we go about connecting to your services? I know Christina got us started here with connecting students that we have individually, but what are some other things that you think might be effective for us faculty to do to help encourage people to be part of the program and to also encourage faculty to be part of the program too? Maybe not directly, but like you said, with mentoring, with cheerleading, with just getting the word out in the community, so we can let the area know that we have Puente, we have Umoja, they're not going anywhere, and please come and participate.
I would say definitely connect the students with MCS regardless. I know that you have students from all walks of life, but send them over to MCS, and if one of us is available, we're happy to help them with whatever services we can, be it helping them with their financial aid or finding financial resources. Besides, well, we know Benefits Hub does it, but we might have some that might be able to cater specifically to them. For example, I help a lot of immigrant students, and I have a set of scholarships that they can apply for regardless of their immigration status. We can help them connecting, as we mentioned before, to the right resources, or we might be able to help them as well. Especially this week, I helped a lot of students, and a lot of them did not identify as Latinx. All I wanted to help was just making sure that they got into the classes they were looking at, because as we know, week one is chaos when it comes to completing that schedule. So I was able to help quite a few, especially with those shifts. that happened during the first week and help them enroll in classes because they didn't know what to look for. So go ahead and send them our way, and our front desk assistants will be able to direct them to whichever one of us is available at the time. We'll be able to tell them what services we offer as well. Any single thing. And regarding trainings, a lot of, at least for Puente, a lot of the trainings happen in California, but it's easier when something is state sponsored, when your own schools can send students, faculty members to different schools throughout the state, because it's all California fund. Everyone works for California, so it's really easy, but not so much here. We do have funds to send faculty members to our Puente trainings as well, which in the future we're hoping to send math faculty now that we're adding that component. But one thing that Dr. Judy and I have talked about is hopefully in the future we can have our in-house trainings in which we can collect more faculty members to come to these trainings and be able to offer them here without having to worry about hotels and planes and transportation and money and meals. So as soon as I hear about that, I'll make sure to connect to make sure that we're providing those opportunities to everyone and the resources.
Add to ditto to what Hector said, Umoja also has trainings with the Umoja organization that are based in California, and that normally happens in June, which unfortunately it was in person, so that really impeded our faculty from going to the training in the spring. But expect to go to the Summer Learning Institute or the Faculty Learning Institute that Umoja offers in June in California if you are interested in becoming a Umoja faculty and having your classroom Umoja-fied, and you'll be welcome into the larger community of Umoja. I definitely send students to us in C206. Also, they can book an appointment on our MCS website to speak with us virtually as well, if that helps the student. I also see a comment about the library does have a space. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, there are hours reserved for Umoja students on Thursdays and Puente students on Tuesdays. I have added a few items to that study space to make it more welcoming for students to feel like they can go learn there without being in a cold space. And also has a few supplies there and motivational posters as well in the space. We definitely want to use that space for the for that, but also I would like you all to be in solidarity and help amplify our voice to secure real space that we can meet in dialogue and have our porch talks to talk about issues that sometimes we cannot talk at just the normal quiet hours level at times, and we want to be able to present. I've also want students to feel welcome to create their own activities to present to their peers as well. And so having another space on campus where we can do those things is also necessary.
Darnita, there's also a question here about mentorship.
Okay, it is a volunteer non-paid opportunity for the academic year. And so faculty or staff that choose to become a mentor, we just want you to participate fall, winter, spring, have at least a monthly meeting with your mentee, offer some positive and healthy guidance. Just the tools to help to be successful in the classroom, as well as they may have some life situations. If we can provide some type of positive relationship or resource outside of that, and connect them to other resources. So we may know Benefits Hub or Academic Success Center, but you may have another N or another person that could be a point of contact regarding a student that has an issue. So you can just be a point of resource for them.
Yes, and Christina, regarding your question about if any faculty member can participate in these trainings, the trainings that are offered specifically for Puente are for the faculty members that will be teaching those classes. But the ones that I mentioned with conversation with Dr. Judy about potentially having in-house, those will be open to all faculty members on campus. And hopefully we can, Darnita and I can coordinate to hopefully do one big training rather than two separate trainings. We haven't gotten to that point yet, since we're still, learning to put our programs together, seeing what's working, what's not working, what should we implement for next year. So definitely, I want to invite you all to this conversation again if it happens next year, because we'll be more experienced on our positions.
Yeah.
But those trainings will definitely be to help you all know how to better support Latinx, Black, and African American students.
Yeah, and I do love Democratic Classroom. I definitely want to get Democratic Classroom training here at Bellevue College. So we can pull our funds together to make that happen as well. Maybe Faculty Commons can host it.
Awesome. And that's kind of in the spirit of what Tanya, the director of the Faculty Commons, has put in the chat here. The Faculty Commons is always looking for opportunities to help faculty better engage our students for student success, and especially when it comes to cultural awareness and being culturally responsive. And DC and things like that, I really look forward to, and I know Tanya does too, really look forward to working with both of these programs in whatever capacity you need us to help support you in making these programs be a success, especially something like DC. Wouldn't that be great to have all of us faculty come together and learn about that here on campus? I look forward to you all doing that, Darnita and Hector. So I want to be respectful of our time. I know we're at 12:20, and I know many of us have classes and lunch and all other good stuff. So I just want to thank you personally, and thank you on behalf of the Commons, Darnita, for coming and sharing with us here today, and also Hector for sharing about your programs, and Delisa sharing how we can support your students. And we really do look forward to a strong collaboration to make these programs work here at this college, because we're the largest community college, or largest, I guess I'll just say community college because that's our primary mission. But we're the largest community college in Washington State. People come to us, and when they come to us, we need to be able to support them. And programs like these, especially for Black and Latinx students, these are designed to help support students who have been who have been very vulnerable throughout these times and history. So thank you very much. And I hate to have the last word, so if anyone would like the last word here.
Okay. I was just gonna say, everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Be okay. Be vulnerable in front of your students so they can be vulnerable as well and feel safe in your space. And may we all have a prosperous academic year.
Yes, and thank you so much, not only for having us, but also for being here and your interest in learning more about our programs, but most importantly, how to help the students that are in your classrooms. Looking forward to any future conversations as well that we may have, because, I want this to be a two-way street about learning. I want to learn about what's going on in your classrooms, like how can we better support? And I'm also grateful that you want to learn about what we do for your students as well.
Bye, everyone.